UConn football needs a conference, and the MAC is just a few years away from a new TV deal. Let's talk about why these two pairing up makes sense. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode right here on the College Underdogs YouTube channel. I'm your host, Trey Smith. If you are a G5 football fan, this is the place to be. I would strongly encourage you to like, subscribe, share this with a friend, watch it at the end, comment, join the discussion. We are building a community here. I am so happy to be back. I was out most of the offseason in the winter and spring. Got back in the action yesterday, and man, the conversations that's happening just on that video, it's been really good. It's really cool to see the community that we've built here amongst Group of 5 football fans. And so if you are new to the channel, I would highly encourage you, even ask you to hit subscribe, turn those notifications on, and join the discussion, man. We're just a big discussion forum, and we are taking over more territory. We cover the national landscape of Group of 5 football, G5 football. So I will revisit yesterday's video because there were some great points that were made in that discussion thread. So I will revisit that later this week. Today, I want to talk about what you heard me say at the top of the video, which is UConn football and the MAC. So if you are a UConn football fan, you might remember me from last year. I was right there talking about UConn, strongly advocating for them to get into the Big 12. We had some good discussions in regards to, there were some fans that did not want that. They wanted basketball to stay in the Big East. Some were all in on becoming a full member. And to this day, okay, I believe 100% UConn gets a Big 12 invite a year ago if the 4 corner schools don't become available and jump ship at the last second, the 11th hour. I mean, it was like doomsday for the Pac-12. It all just came spiraling down. And so I don't think personally it would be wise for UConn right now to sit and wait on like this ACC doomsday that's apparently going to happen. It's totally different scenario from the Pac. Okay, you got to remember a year ago, the Pac, they didn't have a media deal. Like they didn't have one. The ACC right now, they have one that's pretty ironclad, and I know there's a lot of discussion around it that maybe it's not, and maybe teams are going to start jumping ship. They're going to look to expand, whatever. Where I'm at a year later, okay, I don't think it'd be wise for UConn to wait. I think basketball is pretty rooted in the Big East. I don't know why they would want to leave at this point. Back-to-back national titles. Kentucky basically was going to write Hurley a blank check. He turned it down. He's where he wants to be. So here's the thing. Football has got to get in a conference. Jim Mora, a year ago, was very adamant about that. And the reason why is because the way the landscape is shifting, as you all know, if you're an independent not named Notre Dame, you're just not going to stand a chance. And literally with UMass joining the MAC starting next season, 2025, I should say, that leaves UConn and Notre Dame as the only independents in Division I college football because, you know, obviously Army is joining the ACC. Well, they're in the AAC already this summer. They joined. So I want to give 3 reasons, though, why I think the MAC should invite UConn football. I think it goes without saying why UConn should entertain this and why this would benefit them. Recruiting, playoff access, having a conference. I mean, all that stuff matters in today's game more than ever. And even Notre Dame, I wouldn't be shocked if they end up in a conference before this thing is said and done. But from the MAC's perspective, does it make sense? Right? They're bringing in UMass starting in 2025. Would it also make sense for them to bring in UConn? Now, I had someone on Twitter. In fact, I'll shout him out. Let me pull it up here on my phone. At SMUFB Offense. He said, no, the MAC, because I posed this question on Twitter either last week or the week before. He said, the MAC, he said, they don't want the MAC and then they don't need the MAC. The MAC won't take them unless they join as a full member. I do disagree because I do think, I'm not saying it has to be the MAC, but they do need a conference. And I don't think them sitting around waiting on a Power 4 invite is wise at this point. And then he said the MAC has been crystal clear that they aren't ever going to allow a football-only arrangement again. Now, if you could get the MAC to change their mind, sure, but every indication is they will sit at 13 before adding a football-only member. There's just no incentive in their eyes, is what he said. So I'm going to try and provide some incentives as to why it would make sense for the MAC to send an invite to the UConn football program. Number one is their TV market and geographic footprint. You heard me say at the top of the video that the MAC's TV deal is going to be up, I think, the 2026-27. So they've got 3 seasons, including this upcoming season, and then they're up for renegotiation. And I've shown this map before. I'm going to pull it up on this video as well. I was showing it last year when I was trying to make a case for them to the Big 12. But you can see right here, man, they're just outside of ESPN headquarters. They're right between the number 1 and number 8 markets, which also are in the MAC. The MAC has representation with Buffalo and now UMass. Theirs is, I think, a top 30. Yeah, the number 30. Now, this was as of several years ago, but I don't know that a lot of this has changed too much since this particular print-up was released. And so I feel like if I'm the MAC and I could sort of pair or put together this little trio of TV markets with Buffalo, Yukon, and UMass, to me, that's not a bad move, considering that you're going to be renegotiating here in a few years, especially if you can get UConn into the conference and they can start to rebuild their program back to a competitive team. Here, I'll pull this map down now. So number one for me is the TV market and the geographic footprint and being able to put them with that trio of those 3 sort of powerhouse East Coast TV markets right there that your conference would now have to offer. The second reason for me is strength in numbers. Man, I think that what we've seen with the realignment frenzy we've been in with college football is that these conferences are finding a strength in numbers. They're expanding. They're adding teams. I think also what UConn would do is balance out the conference. It would get them to 14 with the addition of UMass. I think bringing in UMass and UConn in together would be wise. Not so much from a divisional standpoint because, the MAC is dropping their divisions this year. But I think what it would allow you to do is to keep an East-West division scheduling like model without actually having to go to a divisional setup so that you could do your scheduling with sort of an East and West type matrix or whatever you want to call it, but still keep it to where your 2 best teams are playing in that conference championship, which is going to be very important given that the highest ranked G5 champion is going to get a playoff bid. And so I think that, obviously if you don't know, that's why the MAC did away with their divisions, was because they wanted to ensure that each year the top 2 teams in the conference were protected to be playing for the conference championship. And I think, though, adding UConn football, I should say, balances their football program or balances their football scheduling. It gets them to 14. So that's number 2. And then my number 3 reason is actually not my own original, but I'm going to read from an article on lastwordonsports.com where it talked about a potential basketball partnership, right? You're never going to get UConn basketball into a conference like the MAC. However, if you could get, if we invite UConn football as a football only member, could we also work out some sort of basketball partnership arrangement with the men's and women's programs in a way that would benefit the conference without actually them having to have any sort of, not that it would disrupt anything they already have going. And so here's the idea I'm going to share, and then I'd love to get some thoughts in the comments. Garrett Seawright of Saturday Glory had a great idea to bridge the gap. The conference could suggest that 3 non-conference games have to be against MAC foes. So for UConn men's basketball and UConn women's basketball in pre-conference play, 3 of those games are scheduled against MAC opponents. Would UConn ever lose to a MAC school in basketball? Probably not. However, MAC fans would show out for their teams as they play host to one of the top programs. So obviously they would be road games as well for UConn. And then they just said, imagine Gino's team traveling to the Stroh Center to take on Bowling Green. The stadium would be filled to the brim. In other words, there's a way the MAC could get some benefit during basketball season, even if it's just from a ticket sales standpoint, if you could work in some sort of basketball partnership where, okay, you play 2 or 3 road games pre-conference against MAC opponents, and then we'll invite football. We'll invite you as a football-only member. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like that makes sense to me. Definitely for UConn. UConn football has got to get in a conference. I think, like, as soon as possible. And I know there's going to be some of you that are going to see this and you're getting the comments say, no, we're going to the ACC, or no, we're going to wait it out for a power, da-da-da. Okay. Just know the longer your football program stays in independent, I feel like the further and further back they have potential to be sort of set back. The harder the road will be to build that program back and to get them to where they're competitive again. So, I mean, because you got to think, recruits, they want to go play somewhere in a conference. You know, they want to play somewhere where they've got a chance to play for a national championship. You want access, right? You want that access. I mean, it impacts every part of the program. And I think from the MAC standpoint, it's like, okay, they don't want to have a football-only member. However, if you look at the TV market, if you look at what their upcoming renegotiation with their TV rights deal, if you look at a potential partnership with UConn basketball, both men's and women's, maybe there's a way to leverage that into football, a football-only membership in the MAC for UConn. So let me know in the comments what you think. Should the MAC do this? Should they not? If you're a UConn fan, where are you at right now? What's the latest in your world? Are you still waiting on the ACC? Are you still waiting on the Big 12? I just think it's going to be a long time before those come back into the serious discussions. And I feel like in the meantime, UConn football needs to get into conference before the program just continues to get further and further behind. So those are my thoughts. That's it for me today. Trey Smith, College Underdogs. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Share this with a friend. Leave me a comment. Peace.